Welcome to Season 2 of In the Vine Dating Podcast with host Melissa Chavez, joined by Yesenia, Denise, and Shekinah. This season, we'll be discussing different topics such as premarital intercourse, soul ties, and the importance of servanthood. And of course, discussing our upcoming dating mixers and events. For more information, you can visit our website at www.inthevinedating.com. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to show your support and like, share, and subscribe.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to In the Vine Dating Podcast. It's your host, Melissa Chavez. And here with me, I have
Shekinah,
Denise,
and oh my goodness, we have a real treat for you guys. We have the one, the only, Verduzco. What up, Mike?
What's up?
How's it going?
It's going.
This is so much
It's
fun.
going.
So
I don't even know what's gonna happen. I'm just here for the ride.
Yeah, did you tell him like 5 minutes before? Or did
Yeah.
It's like 4.5 before.
Well, we're happy to have you here. How do you feel?
Nervous again.
Oh, good. I think we all feel nervous. Yeah. That's why we all laugh hysterically every so often.
Yeah.
So today we are talking about, we're going to follow up on Jose Rodriguez's interview this last Monday, which was so good. We had to cut down so much content because it was just hot fire. What did you guys think of it? What was your favorite part? I'll start with Shekinah.
It was great, and I expected it to be. As you guys know from when we followed up on Jackie's interview, just the impact that both of them have had on my life. Mm-hmm. So I was really excited to listen to that and hear that because I know he had so much to share. And, it makes sense that you guys had to cut a lot because that man has had a wild life, and he has a wild impact on a lot of people's lives as well. But, I was excited to hear it, and I'm glad that we could talk about it today.
Well, let me clarify. Just so that Jose, I didn't cut off your part. It was me. The Salvadorian in me came out, and I just kept talking. I was like, Melissa Chavez, it's Jose's interview. What was your favorite part, Denise?
My favorite part. Well, first, let me answer the other question. The one that what I thought about it, or let me just give you what I feel. Okay. Before I even when I first turned it on, I messaged the group, and I'm like, I am really looking forward to this. When I was like, I had just this feeling that it's going to be full of depth and wisdom and just fire, and no joke, it was hot fire. But there were I had a lot of favorite parts, but one of the things that really stood out to me when he talked about how he felt safe, how Jackie made him feel safe, and because of that, he was able to do what he did. And that's one thing that I'm huge on when I talk to women is, create an environment for your husband, for your spouse, for your children, where they feel safe and protected, because it really helps them thrive. Yeah. So that for me was I love it, Yeah. So yeah.
That was really good. It reminded me of what he even said, that children should feel rest when they enter the love of a father and stuff. Yeah. Mike, what was your favorite part?
Well, I know Jose from way back.
That's right.
This is so... I'm snapped.
So, I kind of knew some of his story. I didn't know everything that he went through. And probably to this day, there's probably still things I don't know. But I guess what I appreciate most was, he and I had similar moments in transition and similar mindsets. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty cool to see that, someone else had kind of the same, thought process as to why I should choose this life over my current life. So it's cool to see that, we're very similar.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I agree. My favorite part was, I think it's going to sound so probably cliche, but literally the entire thing was so good just because Jose just had such a willing heart to open up, right? And not only that, but obviously there was parts that I'm sure, not that it was hard, but it was okay, I'm about to say this, So the fact that he just went for it and he saw the purpose of it, I think that's going to be amazing. So I really hope that and pray that the Lord honors that, right? Mm-hmm. So this week we're going to do what we always do, and we're going to break it down. So one of the first things that we drew out from his interview was how he went through that phase where he felt the Lord's presence leave. That's pretty intense, right? And so what would you guys like to say about it? Any of you have any thoughts?
I think for me, I want to just piggyback on what you said. To hear him as a man be so raw and vulnerable, like literally brought me to tears. Because if you guys know Jose, he's masculine. He's not he's not weak sauce, you know? He's not a pansy. But at the same time, he's able to tap into like the depth and love of Jesus like no other. And that for me was such a beautiful picture to see that there can be that healthy balance, right, out in the world. But so when he touched on that, it really made like, it was like the fear of the Lord kind of came over, right? Because he's like, I don't want to live like that without that. So that for me was just very inspiring to see what a healthy dynamic it can be. When you have the right perspective, right? Because I feel like society has really perverted that male to male type of relationship, like on the extreme of like homosexuality. And so it's really hard for men to tap into that love of Jesus as a male, because it's just, even talking about it, right, it just seems kind of weird. But just to see that he yearned for that and that he didn't want to miss out on that, or he wanted to find a way to get it back or step back into that, for me was it just brought me hope.
I really wish I would have asked him like when he felt God's presence again. After that, I was like, dang it, I missed that opportunity. So Jose, write us something. I don't know, send us a letter. So what did you think about it, Mike? Like when he said that, like feeling the presence of the Lord leave.
Well, one thing I appreciate about Jose is he's not afraid to tell it how it is. He's not afraid to tell you how he feels about it. You know, there's areas like I still have a lot of work to do. I'm not where, you know, I want to be, where I need to be. Still a lot of things I need to overcome. But one of the areas I struggle the most is telling people how I feel. You know, I don't like to do that. It's not my thing. Like, unless you really press me for it, like, if I'm being honest, it's like, it's none of your business. Like, it's I'll let you know if I feel like I need to let you know. You know, but if people just generally ask me, I'm just like, next question. You know, but I appreciate that a lot about Jose, because he's able to show guys like me, you know, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to express how you're feeling. Like, there's no judgment here. You know, we're here to help you. You know, and he even talked about like how he had the instance with one of his friends, and you know, he went to him trying to tell him like, hey, you know, this part of my life is not okay, and then his friend wasn't, you know, there for him in that moment. And you know, now on this side of it, I can see how when Jose expresses his life or his feelings, especially to annoy people coming around the church, he makes everyone feel comfortable. He makes everyone feel, you know, this is a safe place. You're not going to get judged for what you say. Like, we're here to help you. We're genuinely here to be a brother for you. And so that's what I appreciate most about Jose, and, you know, things that I wish that, you know, I can eventually facilitate more in my life, you know, because there's a lot of newer guys that come into the church. And I said it when you interviewed me, you know, there's different people, different characters in the church, and I'm one that's a little bit more blunt, a little bit more rough, and just, you know, suck it up and be a man type of guy. Jose's the, you know, what's going on? How can I help you? And, you know, both are needed. But at the same time, like, you know, I have to recognize where I'm at, and I have to, like, realize what Jose has is a true gift. And I need to learn how to kind of take some of his gift and apply it to my life, you know, because I can't always just be that blunt, straightforward guy. Like, I got to learn to... Everybody receives a little bit different, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I appreciate that you said that, and I think it also, in contrast, I think it also shows men that are, because there are those emotional men out there, right? I think it shows them what it looks like when done the right way. So it brings in like this contrast, because I'm sure like you have the men that are like rough and tough like that, where they don't want to express emotion, and then you see the ones that are like all over the place, and like even worse, like I ain't trying to do any of that, like get out of here, bro. So to see how... And I mean, I'm sure Jose now is probably like, yeah, it took a lot of work, you know? But yeah, just to see that dynamic, how it can benefit both sides of the spectrum, I think it's awesome.
Oh, man. I don't know. Because it's something I've never experienced myself, I can only imagine how scary and how alone you really feel in a moment like that, where you really feel the presence of the Lord turn his back. I just finished reading the book of Jeremiah, and God talks a lot about how he had to turn his back on Israel because of their sin. And it didn't mean that he didn't love them, didn't mean he still didn't long for his bride, but he had to, because he just couldn't look at their sin because they're being so rebellious. And so when I was reading that, I was actually able to attribute it to what Jose must have felt in that moment. And I was like, wow, that is scary. That is such a scary like feeling. And for him to, and he did kind of explain that, you know, he knows that God didn't leave him, but God was showing him what his life would look like without God in it. And that's a scary thought. And so for Jose's sake, I'm glad that it was just a glimpse, you know, and that God didn't actually have to, you know, completely walk away, you know, let him do his thing and experience that consequence to the fullest extent. But that Jose's response was repentance. Yeah. And that to me was beautiful, because I feel like a lot of people would experience something similar to that when they're in blatant rebellion. Yeah. And that's the moment where you can repent, or that's the moment where you go, well, fine, I'm just going to continue living the way that I'm living. And that's just a scary thing. And I'm grateful that Jose didn't choose that.
Oh my, yeah, I'm sure Jackie is too.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I completely agree, because I did want to mention like what led him to that place, right? Because I think in Christianity, a lot of people can think, oh, you know, God's always with us and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, there's, I can't believe I'm about to make this distinction, but so there's oxygen in the air, right? And so when it's inside of you, you're alive. But then there's a moment where it's no longer inside of you, and then you're dead. So if we equate that to God's presence, like God's presence, it's everywhere. But when it's inside of you, you're alive. But when it's gone, it's dead. And so God will leave your presence. That's like good. God will leave you. You know what I mean? Like we see that in the Bible. We see that with Saul, how the Holy Spirit left him. And then now he was being tormented by all these different spirits. And he had to bring in a David, right, to play the instrument to make him feel better. But the problem with Saul was that he didn't repent, right? And so and I think the reason why I want to drive this home is because, you know, Christianity is not, it's not fluffy, right? You can't just do what you want to do and think that you're okay. Like the word says, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. Psalms 2 says, kiss the son unless he be angry. Like there's a reverence that has to come in. And so, you know, if you're, and I'm honestly feeling the fear of the Lord when I'm saying this, because I'm like, okay, like you're going to put this out into the airwaves. Like you better make sure you do that too, right? But you can't continue to expect a God's forgiveness when you yourself aren't willing to change the behavior. And so, you know, repentance is true, but there's repentance and then there's sorrowfulness. And Pastor Adriana and I, we talk about it, and so did Pastor Abraham, where it's like there's the emotion of like, oh man, like I wish I would have never done that. But which I'm sure he felt oftentimes, right, when he would get caught, where, you know, you wake up from the drunken stupor and you're like, God, like I wish I wouldn't have done that. You overspend, like, and then but then there has to come a moment where you really have to face yourself like a man, and you have to be like, okay, like, am I going to move on from this, or am I going to continue living like this? And if so, then you made your own choice, bro. Like, you can't, you know. Bro. Yeah, I had to soften that blow a little bit. Okay, so the next one was, one of the things that he said is that it's not just praying, right? And that all of a sudden the problem's fixed. Is you have to be in agreement with the Lord and put in the work to see the change that you're praying for, or the thing that you're praying for. And so have you guys ever seen that work out in your life, where you were just like, oh yeah, you know, it's prayer and action? Or what do you guys have to say about that? I keep starting with you. Let me start with Michael.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, I mean, you have your highs and lows, right? There's times when you're like extra hot, and times when you're just kind of like, man, am I even a Christian? Like, if we're gonna be honest, you know, like, like I'm not perfect, and I'm the first one to say that. And I think I realized that a lot too, like, you know, how busy you get. You know, sometimes without even intentionally doing it, life gets the best of you, and then it's just like, well, what have I done lately to, you know, represent the lifestyle that I say I represent? And that's hard, you know, like even getting tied up at work, there's times where, you know, you just get so consumed in everything, and then before you know it, it's 11:30 at night, and you're like,
where'd everybody go? What's for lunch?
Have I given my kids a lesson today? Or, you know, like, have I made them better people? Have I done anything for my wife? Have I, like, what happened? I just missed 2-3 days before you know it, you know, and it's life. It happens. But I guess it's, you know, you got to be real with yourself and kind of do an inventory of what I do this week that that's you know, lining up with the lifestyle I say I want to follow. Right. And I think that's the hard part in the continual improvement of, you know, trying to get better every week from the week prior. Yeah. So, yeah.
I think that's good. Honestly, it's practical, right? Because we do go through those highs and lows where it's just like, oh, one moment it's like any other relationship. Like one moment you're hot, the next moment you're like, bro, like, like I'm trying to stay inside all day. Like, but it really is like that with the Lord. Like, it's a real functioning relationship, right? And so, I'm just gonna digress, guys.
You're just gonna what?
Oh, nothing. Go ahead.
What's the question?
The notes say that Jose said it's not just prayer.
Yeah.
It's like you have to be in agreement with the Lord and you have to put in the work, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. I agree. You definitely have to be in agreement, and you definitely have to put in the work. I mean, I agree. It's, you need it. I don't know what else to say.
It's because your man's here. She's nervous.
No, I mean, I don't know what the question.
I was just commenting on it. Like, what do you think?
I don't know.
Did you need me to ask that? Like, what do you think about that?
Thumbs up, heart emoji.
Word. I was like,
That'll preach.
It's kind of, I mean, it's hard to elaborate on the same thing.
Okay.
I mean, without the works, you don't reach new levels, right? You don't
Yeah, what
progress,
he
you
said.
you don't change people's lives. Like, okay, I was baptized, I took a few classes, and then if I do nothing, then I'm stuck there.
Right.
Yeah.
What the works is going out and telling the people about the class that you took, going out there and helping the people that can't help themselves, going out there and, like with me, my kids, like telling them, here's a little tip, here's a little that, this is how you want to live your life. This will cause death in your life, and making them stronger people as well. Being there to support my wife. Those are the works. Like, there's the people that Bible thump, and then there's the people that just live.
Yeah.
No, and there's a place for it all.
Yeah.
I'm more of the people that live. People see or not see. I mean, I guess if you look hard enough, the things that we're involved with in the church. Like we're kind of behind the scenes on some of the stuff, and sometimes younger people will come up to us and ask for advice on like marriage and things like that, or I have a few dads ask me about fatherhood, and it's like you're speaking Bible without speaking Bible.
Yeah.
I try to be a good dad to my kids, so that's representing the Father to us. Okay, so how has He helped me, and how can I kind of relate that to my kids?
Yeah.
How can I, whatever lesson I learn between my daughters and I, like how can I relate that to this new father, so I can help him be a better dad.
Right.
Those are the works. That's putting it into work. So if I just take my lesson and just kind of sit on it, I'm not helping the world become a better place. I'm not helping someone get out of their struggle. It's dead at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think tying it with, because he was talking about how being like freed from the things that he was dealing with, it's like, and he was saying that at the same time he was like out going evangelizing and stuff. It's like, okay, well, like, hold up. You can't, and I'm not saying God can't use you in your imperfection. Like, please, like, hear me out on that. But when you're representing, like you're saying, when you're representing a lifestyle, when you're representing God, like, you can't just say, oh yeah, God is good, but yet you're still in your bondage. You know what I mean? Of course, there's a process to things, and there's a working out, and there's like getting better daily. But when you're in blatant sin and you're in blatant rebellion, then that, I think that brings it into a different perspective, right? Because now it's like you can't just do the prayer, and you can't just do the works. Like, you have to bring them in together. Like, so if I'm expecting to be delivered from an addiction, then like how he was saying, I had to do the workbooks, I had to do the things, I had to do the steps. So it was in doing that work that now Jose is able to speak the things that he's speaking, and he's able to bring help, and he's able to mentor, and he's able to like have compassion over people that are going through that, right? Like, if he hadn't done that, then it just would have turned into a whole different kind of worm.
Yeah, I now actually want to point something out, a distinction that I love, because the work looks different for everybody. Depending on what you're going through, right? Like, Mike used a great example of his works looks like practical application, like as far as like in the natural day-to-day living. But with Jose, because of the issues that were at hand, his practical applications, like you said, were workbooks, being held accountable. Not that my husband's not, but more of like the work through it, like the workbooks, the journaling, whatever it was. Like, there was a different type of application, and I think that's really important to point out, because not everybody's journey is going to look the same.
Right.
and we can learn from one another, right? Like, and I think Shekinah had mentioned that earlier. It's like, we've discussed it in the previous one. It's like, you find a tribe that's going through what you're going through, and that's working towards, freeing themselves, because there's a community in that, right? And then you don't feel weird because, like, let's say you're doing a workbook and somebody else is not, then they can't understand or relate. Like, what does that mean? Yeah. So I think that is also important to point out, is like, everybody's journey is going to look different, and that's okay, because clearly different types of trauma require different types of processes and healing, because they just really do. Yeah. It's rewiring the brain. It's a lot of things. So I love that he was willing to. I deal with a lot of women who have men that are going through what Jose went through, and I mean, there's not very many that are willing to put in the work that Jose put in. Yeah. But what I love about Jose, I'm already, like, when I was hearing Jose's testimony, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to send this to this person and to that person, because it shows that it's doable. Yeah. There's a testimony, right? Like, it's doable. Like, you can do it if you want to. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to point out.
That's really good. Thank you. You came back hot. Okay.
And I think something to note too is that, like, newer people coming around or wanting to make a change, it's the change doesn't happen overnight. It's a struggle. Like, it's a long, it's a marathon, right? There's moments, like I even mentioned when you last interviewed me, like, your old life is gonna call you back. Something's gonna spark up. Even with Jose saying, like, he goes to the store. Yeah. It's like, I can't go that way. Well, that situation is his old life calling him back. Yeah. So it's a constant work, and it's a constant, why is my mind going that way? Why is my mind going that way? And then you got to kind of check it, and it's tough, it's tough, especially if you live so much of your life that way. Like, it doesn't just break. It's a constant battle. So all the newer people trying to make changes, like, just realize the expectation is not, on Tuesday you say, hey, I'm going to change my life, and by Wednesday you're fully cured of it. Like, it's a continual work. There's like I'll say it again, like, there's still things that I got to work on. You're not perfect until I guess until never.
And I do appreciate that he brought that up, because obviously Jose was trying to help my husband through what he was struggling with. And a lot of people would be surprised to hear that my husband and I, we prayed together every single day. We worshiped in our home nearly every single day.
Such a good
We did Bible study together regularly. We never missed church. That was never negotiable for both of us. And a lot of people would be surprised to hear that he was doing all of these things and still struggling with this.
It's so good.
And
well, it's not, but you get it.
But I really like that Jose brought that up, because even just in what my husband experienced was, he was expecting a miracle, and that those things weren't an aspect of trying to build a relationship with the Lord. He was expecting a miracle to just happen. If I pray hard enough, if I worship hard enough, if I go to church to the altar and weep hard enough, I'm just going to receive this miracle. And unfortunately, there was just no point where he was willing to do the work. And I remember Jose saying that to my husband, of, that's not enough. He would hand him workbooks and videos, and these are all the things that I had to do every single day. And I'm going to be here with you, and I'm going to help you and support you through this. And unfortunately, it was just, he wasn't willing to put in the daily work. He was just crying out for a miracle. And I, of course, believe in miracles.
Right.
But God's not a genie. And there comes a point where, when you're in direct rebellion against God, he is going to correct you, and you're going to have to work out that correction and apply it to your life. Just as you were saying, there's a daily habit that has to take place. And so that's, I really appreciate that Jose pointed that out, is because I think too many people who struggle with anything, addiction, bad habits, bad thoughts, whatever it is, their past life, are going to church diligently every single week. They're praying. They're at the altar crying out to God, just begging him to take it away. And the heart's there. You genuinely feel bad. And I do believe there's a genuine aspect of repentance. But it's not real repentance if you're not willing to go, okay, I'm willing to actually sacrifice it all every single day, not just on Sunday.
Yeah, because even if the miracle does happen, you still have to apply. Once the miracle happens, okay, well, what habits are you going to implement?
Can't go back to the bar. Like, you might be sober now, but you can't go back to the bar.
And something I want to point out that I think I heard John Bevere say it, and I just feel like this is so important, is many times, there was a minister that did ministry for a very, very long time, and then I guess he ended up going to jail. He lost his ministry, and John Bevere was like, I went to go visit him in prison, And I asked him, like, you had it all. Like, you were the best of the best. And I think it was like 1999, if I'm not mistaken. And he was like, you had it all. Like, you love Jesus. You know, you perform miracles, signs, wonders. Like, what happened? And he's like, I love Jesus, but I stopped fearing Jesus. Like, I stopped fearing the Lord. And I really believe that it's the fear of the Lord, that calls you back to repentance. It's that fear of the Lord that really allows you to apply and want to do the workbooks and yes, love, but also knowing that there is, that reverence. The same way there's a heaven, that there's a hell. Yeah. And it's a beautiful combination of loving Jesus, but also having that reverence and that fear of the Lord to want to do both the faith and the works.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's really good. No, I love that. And absolutely for the people that are, believing for like a miracle and right, like she kind of said, it's not that we don't believe in miracles and that we don't think that God can't make it happen, but there is, there's always a certain level of sacrifice that needs to come, right? When Jesus performed the miracle of resurrection over himself, like there was a huge sacrifice that needed to occur. And, and bringing it back to what Denise said, it's like, there has to be that character change and that mind change. And I think all of that, the fear of the Lord, it's the intimacy with God, right? It's getting to know his heart. I remember once somebody asked me, like, we went to like this event, I think it was one of my goodbye dinners or something from one of my old jobs. And then they're like, oh, Melissa, like, God would still love you if you drink. Like, it's fine. And I was like, well, it's not about that. It's how much do I love him? Like, how much do I love him that I don't want to make him look bad in front of people, that I don't want to betray his trust. Like, I'm out with people that, we're not cut from the same cloth. And all of a sudden, I'm going to turn my back on him. Like, so it comes down to that. So fear of the Lord.
Yeah. Sustain the miracle.
I know we want to move on from this point, but just something that the Lord has really been dropping into me, too, is the Lord's not an enabler. Yeah. He grants us grace to change, not grace to continue doing what we're doing. Yeah. But that's just one little.
That's good.
Yeah.
So we can move on.
Yeah. She kind of said we can move on.
We can move on. I guess. We've been on that one for a while, but no, it's a good one. It's a good one.
Is it?
It is.
It's really good.
It's really good.
Heart emoji.
Okay, the next one is identify your triggers. He said something that I had never heard before. The arousal palette. Do you remember?
Yes. It's huge because even with people that suffer with PTSD, that's a thing.
Really?
Because like, let's say that you were like in Iraq and it was hot. Like, let's say you go through it's a hot day that can trigger you because it's your senses. So your 5 senses. So there is. I mean, obviously he didn't use it in that connotation, but it really is a thing.
Yeah.
And that's
So I can. I mean, to point on her point. PTSD, the arousal palette, is basically something that triggers something, right?
okay.
So he's using it in a sense of what's arousing or stimulating your mind in a positive manner that like you want it. So to her point on the PTSD thing, there was when I came back from Iraq, anytime I hit a pothole while driving, like it kind of what happened.
Took you there,
Now when we were in Iraq, my vehicle didn't get blown up, but it was a vehicle behind me that did.
That's crazy.
There was people that would convoy every day, and you see IEDs all the time, but it's just because you're on high alert for so long, and then I come back and I just hit a pothole, and it was enough to just, and I thought I was strong. I was just like, whatever. Like, PTSD is a joke, but then I was just like, why the heck am I doing that?
Yeah.
And it's because it's just a trigger.
Yeah.
So arousal palette is just basically another word for a trigger. What's that trigger that's gonna get you looking for something?
Okay, so I think when he mentioned it in the palette way, I think to me it was just like it opened it up to see like, okay, it can be more than one thing, right?
Yes.
So you having just shared that about like the potholes and stuff, like what's one way that you learn to navigate that? For other people, obviously it's not going to be the same thing, but we all have triggers, right? We all have things that set us off or that take us like river or whatever the case may be. Like, how did you learn to navigate through those?
I don't even know, to be honest. Just over time, it just kind of stopped getting so, I guess, fresh in my mind. I was never afraid of it. I just realized that it would just kind of stop me for a second. So I don't know if that's the best example for this.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't anything specific I did. Just over time, it got a little more normal again.
Okay.
Obviously in Jose's situation as to, like going back to the girl in the grocery store, it's avoiding it.
Yeah.
You know, how do I not put myself in that situation?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I did the same thing. You know, like I had a party scene era as well, and I was just you know trying to hook up with every girl I could see. Every girl, yeah.
I've forgiven him, guys.
And so
Or have I? No, I'm just kidding.
So there was a period
that
where,
was an arousal palette right there.
yeah, there was a period where I just kind of just cut off a lot of people and just kind of just go to work, come home. You know, I was dating her obviously, so like just being around her all the time. So it was like getting myself out of situations where it kind of trigger old ways of like, hey, I'm gonna go hang out with my buddies. And like, just cut that out, cut a lot of friends out. Social media was gone for years. I didn't have social media for a while, and it was just kind of recalibrating myself. Just like how much time do I have and how do I want to spend it?
Yeah.
And because my ultimate goal was to be a good dad and to be a good husband, that allocating some of my time to those things was not in my priorities.
Yeah.
So I had to recalibrate and okay, well, how can I be a husband today? How can I be a better father today?
Yeah.
And just staying busy with those positive things that I wanted in my life.
So what I'm drawing out from that is, that scripture in James where it says a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. So
That's good.
Essentially, we all have triggers and we all have things that we all struggle with, right? Like if you don't, Lord have mercy, you must be playing this in heaven because there's no temptation there.
Yeah.
But sorry, I almost made myself laugh super hard with my own joke. Anyway, so we all have the triggers and we all have these things, but what gets us to a place that we're willing to do the work, I think, is understanding what we want the end result to be and applying ourselves to that end result, right? And going back to like the work thing. So, and bringing it into like a more relatable term, I think that many people can relate to. It's like exercise, right? Yeah. It's that obese person that one day is just like, I'm so sick of this. And all of a sudden they set their mind and their heart and like their will to do the thing. And then that's when they're able to start changing like their habits, and they're able to start doing whatever needs to be done in order to, or, you want a new job. So all of a sudden you start working on that resume, you start doing the things. So you take the practical steps, right? So let's say you're dealing with, I don't know, porn addiction. And so it sounds pretty crazy, but okay, get rid of the Wi-Fi in your house, right? Where now you have to go to a coffee shop and do work. Right. And it sounds excessive to some, but your salvation is nothing to play around with, right? And your relationships around you are nothing to play around with either. And so, if you're a father or if you're a friend, if you're a son, like the choices that you make are gonna affect everybody else. Like how he and I were talking, how we both like stirred up the household in order to be able to be isolated and be able to do the things that we wanted to do. It's like, in the same way that you're creative as an addict, use that use that same energy to be set free, and not many people are not many people are probably going to believe you. And as I said, even in my interview where it was just like, well, I couldn't be mad at people for not believing me because as an addict, you're a liar, right? And so then I had to first prove it to myself and then to the person, right? And so, a lot of people may probably be in that place where it's like, well, I've tried it so many times and I've done this and I've done that. Well, that leads me to the next point. You've been accountable to your own self, more than likely, right? You haven't opened up to somebody that can help you through that. And then if you have, you've opened up to the wrong person that doesn't have the tools to be able to get you out of that. Right. And so, Shaquina, I know that we talk about accountability every episode. At this point, if you guys don't have a mentor, please give me your address. I need to send you a packet or something because this is crazy.
No, holding yourself accountable. Again, it goes back to the addict is creative. You can so easily convince yourself that, again, it goes back to, I feel bad enough. That feeling alone is going to, stop me from doing this. And I'm going to share my own example. I struggled with porn years ago. And I remember not feeling okay with that, feeling shame in that, and trying to convince myself that the shame that I felt, those days that I felt really bad about it, that was enough to get me to quit for good. And I never needed to tell anybody, and this was it. I was done. Yeah. And of course, that was never the case. In fact, it was that very shame that led me into the next, whatever. Yeah. The next time. Yeah. And that happened for a little while, and eventually I was like, hey, this is not working. And then the church got introduced to Dr. Doug Weiss's sexual wholeness and healing course. And I remember it was at our house. The cell group was at our house, and I was cleaning the house. And I remember looking up to the Lord, and I was like, look, Lord, here's the thing. I know eventually you want me to confess this, but, and I know that this guy in this class is probably going to ask us to confess these things. But I was like, but you don't understand. Yeah. Right? Because God doesn't understand. Yeah. I was just like, I'm the pastor's daughter. I can't be viewed that way. I'm a representation of their ministry, right? I was like trying to be all noble about it, right? Yeah. So negotiating with the Lord, and I was trying to be noble. Right. You know, this is about my parents and their ministry, and how's it going to make them look? Yeah. And I was like, so if he prompts the room to, you know, confess or talk about it, just don't convict me, okay?
Yeah. Don't convict me. Shekinah. How did that work out?
Like, does that work?
If I'm not convicted, I'll just hold off. And I was like, and I will eventually confess. This will be a great testimony, you know, like a year from now when I'm free.
Yeah.
Because I can do this on my own. And that was legitimately almost word for word a prayer that I had with the Lord. Yeah, you don't and I didn't feel anything, of course. I'm sure God was just like,
okay, I was like,
nothing? Yeah. That's a good sign. We're already on the no conviction part.
Yeah. And God is like, the angels are like,
just frozen. And so the class started. It was just the introduction class. It was just him introducing himself, introducing the class. The homework didn't even start yet. And immediate conviction, of course. And that was the very same day that the first time I'd ever confessed at all, not even to the class. I went straight to my parents' bedroom that night.
Oh.
And they were the first people that I ever told, bawling my eyes out. And I said, this is what I'm struggling with. But that was the moment of freedom. That accountability was, and I don't want to say, that wasn't the moment of freedom in the sense of the moment that I stopped.
Right. Yeah.
That was the moment of freedom to get me to do the work. Yeah. Because now that the people who I viewed as like my mentors, my role models, the people that I held myself accountable to were my parents of all people. Now that was out of the way, I was now able to get an accountability partner who I can go to daily and who I still go to daily, even though I've been set free from it for years now. Yeah. Even the smallest little thought, I'm texting, I messed up. I had a bad thought, but that's because that's a pattern I never want to follow in my life again, ever go back to. And so, I catch every little thing. If I watch a TV show and a scene pops up, I turn it off and I text my accountability, hey, I just watched this. Yeah. And I'm sure she's sick of me by now. But
yeah. No, she's not. But I don't know who she is, but
no, it's just but that accountability is so key. It's so heavy. And again, if you're struggling with any kind of addiction, you get really creative and you start to convince yourself that I can do this. Yeah. It's okay to admit that you can't. Yeah. And there's strength in admitting you can't. Yeah. And as terrifying and as scary and as hurtful as it can feel, tell the person you want to least tell. Get that over with. Yeah. Now, of course, there's rules, and I'm not trying to convince you to call somebody up you haven't talked to in like
don't be calling your ex.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I hate to tell them. Oh my God.
You guys know what I mean. But the person in your life who you look up to the most and who you know will hold you accountable is usually the person that's going to hurt you the most to tell because you're most embarrassed to tell them. Yeah. And for me, that was my parents at the time.
Yeah. It's deep. At the time.
At the time.
Oh, it's changed now.
That's probably still my
parents. Okay. Do you guys want to add anything onto that, or?
I think she covered it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one thing, I think that just goes to show the importance of, working as a team, getting a partner or something like that. Don't try to do everything on your own. It's those moments when you're alone when you have the slip ups like. Little quick story, like even we went to a fair one time and, my daughters are little, so they got a ride with the parent. And we went, I don't know if we went earlier or the day before, I don't remember. But we went and I was able to get on without paying for me. I was just paying for my daughter. So then we come around and I'm bringing her back again, and then the guy's trying to charge me for me. Mind you, it's like 3 extra tickets. It was like $1.50. But she wasn't around. She was like, I think with my other kids somewhere else. And I got so upset. I literally told this dude off, and I was about to hit him. I was to the point, I was like, how are you going to charge me? Like, this is a kid's ride. Like, yeah. And I caught myself like, why am I getting so angry with this dude over 3 tickets? Yeah. Like, what is the reason for that? Yeah. And now, mind you, I mean, I paid. I got on. Obviously, my kid wanted to get on. But I realized, I was like, man, like, if Denise was next to me, I probably would have never got to that state. Like, I don't know what it was about that day. I don't know what it was about that guy, but it was a moment where I was by myself with this dude that I felt challenged at the moment, and I was just like, look, you ain't challenging me on this. I know I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah.
But the fact that she wasn't there was enough to get me to. I was just like, wait, hold on. Like this is a new life. Like I can't be acting like the old me, you know. But it was because I was by myself. I mean, Emma was there, but she didn't really realize what she was already getting into.
Yeah, Emma's like, Dad, what's holding you up?
She was already putting on her seatbelt and everything,
Pay the man, Dad.
So it's a silly story.
No, but it's
true.
That's true.
It's what happens with everything else. It's when you're by yourself that you get creative, like Jose says, or you make excuses as to why. You make these prayers as to like, oh, it's cool because of this. But I'm pretty sure if you were praying that out loud and there was someone else in the room, like, hey, hold on.
Yeah. I would have known it was a foolish prayer.
Yeah, but so, going back to the people that are hearing this that aren't in the church or that are, still are newer to this, is realize like, it's okay to admit to yourself that you can't do it by yourself.
Yeah.
Get the help you need and try to, work as a team through it, and you'll have a lot more success. It'll be easier in the long run if you have someone to help you through it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I like that you said that. I just listened to a sermon by Jack Hayford, and he was saying how when he was growing up, his mom was like fear of the Lord kind of mom. You know what I mean? Like real Jesus mom. Which would make sense why he was raised the way he was. But I remember he said he was lying to his mom about something, and she knew. Because all moms know.
Yeah, we do.
And she looked at him and said, "Okay, Jack, I want you to go upstairs, and I wish I remember the story word for word, but I want you to go upstairs, and I want you to think about, the story you're going to tell me, whether it's the truth or not. But while you're upstairs, I want you to remember that Jesus is in the room. Jesus is right there watching you." And for whatever reason, in that moment, there was this supernatural, just even as a child, belief and knowledge that Jesus really was there.
Yeah.
And so he's confessed, of course. And that wasn't just a mom's tactic to get her son to tell the truth. She really believed that, and she really instilled that fear in her son. And he said throughout his life, everything he did, everywhere he went, there was this knowledge that Jesus was right there watching him. And I think we forget that sometimes. I forget that sometimes. I just...
Or you become passive.
You become passive. Yeah, exactly. And so, I've been trying this... I try to switch it up as far as this new tactic of now I try to imagine a physical person as opposed to this, this all being around me. And now I'm doing my best to imagine this physical person. And I've caught in myself, even just when I'm in the car driving, I'll look over the passenger seat and just I look like a crazy person, I'm sure, but I'm alone in the car, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. But I'm talking. I'll literally turn and I'll talk to this, someone sitting in the chair, and that's helped me a lot. Remember, he's here with me, listening to me.
That's good. That's one thing, and Mike can attest that I'm always telling the girls is Mom's not around, but who is? And they're like, Jesus. I said, yeah. I said, I'm not always going to be around, but Jesus is. Or when it's more so Amalia, when she tries to tell me a story that I know is a little fishy, I'm like, remember, Jesus was in there watching, and then she'll confess. Yeah. But it works. It's right. So you got to instill that.
Yeah. And, I think it sounds kind of like... I don't know. I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of somebody that's listening to this and then is not around it all the time, right? And it's to me, hearing that is all right, girl, you're a little crazy.
Yeah.
But it's these childlike faith things, right? It's I forgot where I heard it from, but they were talking about it's dude, you used to, let's use the context of drinking, right? You would make yourself look like a fool when you would drink, when you would be out in the world. You would be willing to do whatever it took in order for you to accomplish whatever goal and mission you had in that. And so it's how much more when it's promising you life, and how much more when it's promising you breakthrough. Yeah. And so it's we were so willing to do stupid things, right, when we were out in the world. And now when we're coming into the church and we're, literally, again, working out our salvation with fear and trembling, it's all of a sudden we're dignified. All of a sudden we're not willing to do. It's I don't know where the bro came from. I don't know.
It's been on the bro.
It's just been on the bro lately. Yeah. Anyway, but excuse me, it's being willing to do that kind of stuff. Is it always going to be like that? Is it always going to be you know, those little things. Absolutely. I mean, Shekinah's been in the game since she was born, and she's doing these things, you know, like at 30 years old, she's doing these things, and because it's like everybody's walk looks different, and everybody's phases of life looks different. Yeah. And so you can't measure the process for you based on how it looks for somebody else. And I know we've been beating that to a pulp already in this episode, but it's like I think there's great value in realizing that, where it's like, okay, like if for you it looks like, I don't know, turning off your phone for 30 minutes in the morning, you know, while other people are over here checking their emails or whatever, like, so it's gonna look different for you, you know. And so like, just make it simple for yourself. Like literally just make it simple. Okay, next point is I like the analogy that he used as far as that, you know, we talk about this so much already, but it's so good. Marriage will not fix the problem, right? And he used the analogy of debt. It's that like, okay, good. He's like, so if you had debt before you got married, like just because you're married all of a sudden doesn't mean that it's gone. And so it is like that with strongholds or with sin or whatever things that you may be dealing. And these obviously these can be taken into a good context too, right? Like but for the sake of the conversation, so that is really good. I like the analogy that he used. Did that spark anything new inside of you guys?
Yeah, I think for me it made it tangible. Because it's money. It's you can everybody can relate to money. So that was such I was like, okay. I was like, that was good. No, but I agree.
So simple, right?
Yeah, it's so simple and yet
dropping bars.
Yeah, I was like, okay, Jose.
And I do like that he shared it, because we have shared it a lot, but coming from the victim's perspective. Like for me, I was the victim of that mindset, and from him, it was, this is what I brought into the marriage, and so it was a cool shift in perspective, and that's why I really liked he shared it. Yeah.
I have a lot of people that think that marriage is gonna fix it all.
Yeah.
And it doesn't.
And then like the fact that he talked about, you know, living with your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, and you know, doing married things before you get married, and how that ruins your honeymoon. Like clearly, you know, if you apply that statement that marriage doesn't fix it, it's like, okay, you guys are living together, you guys are just kind of, you know, used to each other now. Well, we might as well get married. We've been together for 15 years. So you think that's going to solve the problem, but what happens is like, no, you just have the certificate. Now you guys are still comfortable with each other. Like it's not going to, you know, bring life back into your relationship. Like it's just, you're just married now, you get a tax benefit. Like you know, it doesn't solve Jesus' blessing, baby. It doesn't solve it doesn't solve that, you know, the deeper issues you have. You know. So I think the fact that he pointed that out was a big deal.
Yeah. And then I think a lot of it, he pointed out the back door is closed, so whatever insecurities you're facing while you were living together, and what you were trying to fix in the first place before getting married, that back door closes, and now those insecurities are amplified because there's no way to get out.
Well, let's talk about a little bit what just a little side comment that you just made right now. It's like, okay, now you have Jesus' blessing, right? So there's a difference, right, between couples that, okay, so yeah, we've been married for 15 years at this point, like we've gained weight together. We've acquired debt together. Right. Like at this point, like it's you, it's us, right? We've settled into this, and then you decide to get married because I'm sure one of you is complaining. One of you all of a sudden had a change of heart, and so you get married to give the other person what they want, and blah blah blah. All of a sudden, it just became something that you did, right? Because like Mike said, nothing changed. Like you're still living in the same cycle now. If you do it with Jesus, because the both of you have found Jesus, all of a sudden there's a brand new fervency. Right? All of a sudden there's a brand new commitment, because the commitment now became Jesus. And now it's pleasing Jesus. And now it's like we got married because we just want to do things right. And so, yeah, there's very much real consequences. Because all of, like we've been talking about, Jesus can do miracles, but he's also not like a cleaning service, right? Where he's just going to come in, vacuum the room up, and all of a sudden, like, you're good.
You still have to do the work to sustain the miracle once it's even there.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, if you're listening to this and you've been maybe just sleeping with somebody for a long time, you're not living together, but you've been sleeping with somebody, and, you know, you guys are in a committed relationship, like, you know, you have to understand, like, if you're not willing to commit to Jesus, right? Because that's where the real commitment to the other person is going to come from. If you're not willing to honor Jesus by committing to that person, then you need to let them go. You don't love them enough. Like, I can tell you right now, you don't love them enough because you're not willing to give up your life for this person, right? Essentially, you're dragging them down with you. And so what's happened is you've grown comfortable with them, right? And now you're being I'm sorry, I'm very I'm sounding very direct right now, but and now you're being selfish, right? Because now you're keeping this person up for the comfort. You're not willing to do the work. And so I think ladies more than anything fall into this, that we're willing to do married things without the commitment, without the marriage. And obviously that comes down to like self-worth, soul issues. But like, you really have to pay attention to that. Like, if the man is not willing to, one, commit to you, and two, move forward in that way with you, then I am so sorry to say this, but that man doesn't think you're worth much.
Yeah,
They don't.
I have a question, because we give these scenarios, right? But what do you guys think when both the female or male in the relationship know that they're not, like, that's all, like, they know that
It's just companion.
it's just companionship, and they know that that's the kind of life they're gonna live, and that's what they want? What do you say to people like that?
That one's tough.
Yeah.
That one's tough, because even the Bible says that, right? Jesus is talking to his church, and he's like, "You're neither hot nor you're neither cold. You're warm, and I spit you out of my mouth because of that." Like, it's a bad taste in God's mouth.
But let's say that these people are not churched.
So I guess the question comes back to are they okay with that, or have they just accepted that, hey, this is my life, it is what it is?
Let's say that they're okay with it because they're afraid of losing that person.
That one's tough.
That one is really tough.
Shekinah. What the heck, Mike? Yeah, Shekinah.
Because I feel
I know
like,
a lot of people like
yeah,
that.
because I
know
feel
a lot
like
of
we
people
target people that maybe have that they want better, and they're okay with, like, we're giving tangible steps to get to that goal.
Yeah.
But what about those people that are just said, like, you know what, this is like the cross that I'm willing to die on. Like, I understand that that this is all I'm gonna get. Like, how do you help someone believe that they're worth more than that?
My heart in that situation wouldn't be to point out the sin aspect of it, but to really, because at this point it's a self-worth issue, to think that this is all I'm gonna get, this is the best it's gonna get, I'm not letting go of that. And at that point, to me, it wouldn't be about trying to convince them what they're doing is a sin.
Right.
It would be trying to convince them that they're worth more than that. And that would be my target, to remind that person or those people that, no, you have so much more value and so much more worth than that. It just goes back to, in a situation like that, if they're saved, do it in the church. If they're not saved, that's far more difficult, because we're not in the same environments typically. But just, again, to show the love of Christ in those moments, and because waving a picket sign saying you're going to hell,
Yeah, it doesn't matter. They don't.
Yeah,
It
they
does
don't
matter,
care.
but they don't.
Yeah,
It doesn't.
They don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't wake them up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
So in those moments, that would just be let's be friends. Let's go to coffee.
Yeah.
Let's hang out.
That makes
And
sense.
maybe there's something I could do or say that makes them feel a little bit more have self value.
Yeah.
That's a situation where I would tag Jose in. You're like, hey,
Yeah.
I know this guy's got a problem, dude, but I don't know if I'm the right guy for this. I'm gonna need you to come along with me, because he has that way of speaking to your heart, to speaking to your mind. So he has a different way of connecting with people than I do. I'm able to, I guess, identify it, but my natural wiring, like, that's not it. Like, that's hard work for me.
Yeah.
And that goes back to putting in the work, right?
Yeah.
Like, do I care enough about this person to put myself in those situations and to try to walk them through this? So, like,
The
you're
answer is
worth
no.
you're worth more than this,
Okay.
You're worth more than this, because, like, I guess in my adult life, I've gotten confident enough in myself that I've never really felt lesser than, or that I couldn't get what I wanted or whatever. So now in my adult life, like, that's a weird place for me. Like, I don't understand why people would get to that level.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to understand that.
Yeah.
But I realize that there are people like that,
Yeah.
and there are people that need the help. So I would, grab Jose and come along and, like,
Yeah.
Tag your it.
let's talk to this guy, and that's where I try to learn from Jose on, like, how can he speak to this person's heart and make them feel worth more than what they believe they are, and I think from that, it's just speaking life experiences. And the only thing that I ever, go back to is like I can just relate to my marriage and the fruit that's come out of that. Like, okay, are you content with what you're at? Let me share about my marriage and my kids and the beautiful life that we have.
Yeah.
You know, this is a life and even a better life than what we have. Like, this is what you deserve.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think trying to think back to moments where I've been in those situations, as the friend, I for sure feel hopeless, right? Because it's just like, dude, like, you know, you can't convince somebody to love themselves.
Yeah.
Like, you really can't. I think the strategy that I've used in my life is the opportunities that present themselves. I use it like as teaching moments, right? So, for example, I don't know if she listens to this. So let's say I know a third party, right? And the second party is always like, you know, complaining, and she's like, I just wish like she would see it and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, well, you know, at the end of the day, the one thing that you can do is you can lead by example, right? It's like you can, as Mike was saying, like you can lead by example and you can teach. Because sometimes some people would come to me and then they would tell me like, hey, you too can have this life. You know, it's kind of like that. Those infomercials, like, you too can have this for the price of $19.99. Well, I'm not.
Wait, there's more.
It's like they get me with the wait. There's more. But let's be honest, like, and I'm making it really silly, but even in those infomercials, like the deal looks amazing.
Yeah.
Right? And it looks awesome, and it's just like, bro, like if I were to show up to work, like I'll be stunting on everybody, right? But then it's just like, oh, but I don't want to pay those $19.99.
Yeah.
And so it's like you can present it,
Or
and
going
it can
through
look,
the process.
yeah, and you can look amazing.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if the person's not like, I don't with that kind of stuff, like I don't know that there's anything except take the opportunity to teach and the opportunity to be there when you can.
But I think you can learn, like as silly as it is, I think you can learn from the infomercials, right? Because, all right, so this person, they're stuck where they're at and they're content with just being here.
Yeah.
Right? God's promising you this, right? So what do the commercials do? They tell you, hey, you can have this awesome cup, right? This cup's worth $1 million. But you can have it today for just $5 a day.
Yeah.
$5 a day seems a lot more attainable than $1 million.
Okay.
Right? So
really good.
basically, like when these people are stuck, you know, just here, and they believe that this is the best I can get. By me showing them my life, and then I'm saying, you know, my life's like best, and you know, this is where they need to be. I hope people, you know, get to at least my level and higher. Like we all want to get, you know, better lives and all that. But at least I can speak to them about my marriage and my kids and, you know, the changes that I went through.
Yeah.
And by them hearing my story and realizing that it's a real life story, and, you know, especially from where I came from,
Yeah.
it now is obtainable to them. It's not a fairy tale.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good.
You know, so I think that's basically what we're doing is we're giving them the infomercial and saying, hey, here's how it is
$5 a
possible
day.
for you.
That's really good.
That was really
You know,
good.
so,
That is really good. It just it's a reminder of why our testimony is so powerful.
Yeah.
Because you're right to stand up there on the pulpit and be like, "Look where I'm at," and that's it.
Yeah.
Well, that's
You know.
why we and we're talking about Jose, right? Because he was willing to share the broken process.
Yeah.
He wasn't just like, oh, my marriage is great.
No.
Like
Yeah.
he opened up about his struggles, his
Yeah.
addictions, like whatever, everything that he opened up about. So now that's why we're like, oh, okay, it is attainable. 'Cause
Yeah.
it was a process.
He showed us the $5 a day to
Yeah.
get to the.
Mike, you can drop the mic now.
That was
Mike can
good.
drop the mic. Okay, so I'm gonna just pick with. Okay, so we'll be quick with this one. He said that Jackie didn't need him; she chose him, and so. Dang,
you need me?
Shekinah, that was. I wish I would have read that before. That's
Stop.
pretty good. Hey, we're in a podcast here. What the heck was I saying? Oh yeah, one of the things that he said about communication and all that was that Jackie wasn't trying to determine who was right. She was trying to determine what was right.
Yeah, it was so good.
I was like,
Good.
and he said it in passing. I'm like, I listened back to it and I was like, what the heck? That's bars.
Yeah.
Make that a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For real.
I wrote that down too. I was like, okay.
Yeah,
But he was so nonchalant about
nonchalant.
it. Yeah.
And I just glanced over it too. I was like, Melissa Chavez,
Yeah.
who pays you for this? The answer is nobody. Just so you guys know.
The Lord.
The Lord, that's right. Laying up heavenly treasures. Okay, so I thought that was so profound because in a community, like he was also saying right before that, whenever they would confront issues, that he would get defensive or that there was something wrong with him or that she didn't like him anymore, and so that was such a key thing when it comes to communication, because we talked about how to approach somebody, right? We haven't yet talked about how to receive when somebody's approaching you.
Yeah.
And so he gave that perspective on how he was receiving when Jackie was approaching him. Because if we know Jackie, Jackie's confrontational. Like if she sees something, like she's gonna call that thing out, right? And so what are your perspectives when it comes to receiving that communication? I have a whole bunch of confronters. I'm the only one that's
We're all gangsters.
I know.
Well,
I'm the
depends.
only one that's like
Depends the
I'm
tone.
gonna go on a walk.
Not sure if I take off my hoops, leave them on. No, it depends.
Vaseline.
Am I gonna give them the cold shoulder? No.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just got real quiet.
Well, let me answer this.
Well, one thing that, like, going back to his statement about, you know,
That was so funny.
who was right versus, you know, what is right. Like, I catch myself a lot, too, when, you know, when she'll correct me on something, and I'm quick to point something out, well, you know.
What about this?
What about this time? Like,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't correct myself on the spot, and it's not until later, like, dang, I should have just stayed quiet. Like, I know I'm in the wrong, but, you know, she was in the wrong, too. Like, I could have approached that differently, you know. Why am I only bringing it up now that she brought it up?
Yeah.
And it's because, you know, that natural male instinct of, like, I'm the alpha male and you're not going to tell me what's right and what's wrong. Like, look here, woman, you know? No, I mean, but that, I say it jokingly, but that's essentially what's going on in your mind of, like, you're not going to tell me what what?
How's that working out?
You know? But, you know, going back to it is just, like, you got to learn to just, she's not pointing it out to, you know, to degrade me or to make fun of me or to hurt me. She's pointing it out because it's causing some type of issue that, you know, it's a communication thing. Like for this specific instance, you know, why didn't you do this? Well, it's kind of like when you did this, you know, like it wasn't to hurt me. It was more she just wanted to improve the communication so that we don't, you know, forget to do something or whatever.
Yeah.
So you got to look at it as she's trying to improve the situation between us and not just point out my flaws.
Right.
And that's the maturity of realizing that your spouse is your partner, that she's my teammate. She's not just someone I picked up along the way.
Right.
And, you know, like, no, like we're here for each other. There's a support system, and we got to make sure that, you know, as a married couple, you see it that way.
Yeah.
And not, you know, everything's not an attack. It's a shot for improvement.
Yeah. I think I hope I've already exposed myself when it comes to this, but yeah, like, so I'm learning to exercise my communication muscle, right? And so it's been a lot of crashes and burns, but so I'm right there with you guys. If you're learning how to communicate, you're welcome. We can start a support group. No, but a lot of the things that I've had to deal with or work through, I think is, and we talked about it in the last podcast, in the last Thursday podcast, which is like the intentionality, right? Like what is my heart motive, and also paying attention to the source, right? So for example, if Denise is coming to me and she was like, hey, like you did this or you didn't do whatever the case may be, I know the source. So I know that it's coming from a good place. Yeah. And so, however, if somebody from the street is coming and they're like, okay, first of all, like I need you to slow your roll, right? Yeah. And so, I think paying attention to who you allow in your heart, because me, like, dude, like, I'm sensitive, okay? And so then who allow in my circle, like, I don't know why, but they're not sensitive. As you can see, like, I'm dealing with 3 people that would, like, corner me in the room. I feel cornered right now, actually. I need to take a break. No, I'm kidding. I just wish you guys could have seen the 3 of you just look at me. I'm sweating. I'm just kidding. I'm having fun, but no, I'm not.
But yes, it's the heart. It's the intent of you have to know the motive, the heart of the motive, or the motive of the heart, excuse me, of the people that are, you know, like you said, people that you're allowing to speak into your life. And it's so crazy because it's so easy to get, or at least for me, to get crazy with like that random person on the street. Like till this day, like I'll try to want to fight somebody when they, like get crazy. But
or she'll instigate it, so then I feel like I gotta step in. And just like,
she's not supposed to put me out on blast like that.
I mean, because I got her back, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's like I don't care what you're fighting about. I'm here for you. Then
Yeah.
going back to I'm your teammate. Like,
Yeah, he is. So I married him. So I love you. Anyways, where were we?
Okay.
but it is the motive of the heart. Because
Yeah.
even going with you, like I know I can be harsh with you and very sarcastic and
I love it.
I drop the bombs like I
then
just
she'll
call it
cry
how
to
it
me.
is.
Yeah, I'm feeling like you need to get your.
But
book.
we've gotten to a point where you realize like we care about you. You
Yeah.
know, like you're obviously
Yeah.
important to us, like being the godmother to our kid and everything. So, like you're important to us to where I feel comfortable that I can say
Right.
the things that I say.
Yeah.
So I know if I just go to someone random and just be like, that guy's a jerk. Like,
Yeah, I never think that.
like
Guys, I get that all the time. Your husband's a jerk.
No, but
is
it's
what it is.
it's cool that you say that, right? And I appreciate that you say that. But it's true because when it comes to things that are not meaningful, like
Yeah.
I'll have the conversation. Like
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, but when it comes to things that make me vulnerable or
Yeah.
that make me feel like my identity is attacked, oh, forget it. Like I will shut down and do all these things, right? And so then that's what Jose was talking about. And so, as somebody that's on the receiving end of that, I think. Taking the time to process, right? One of the things that Pastor Linda always tells me is like, okay, like you don't need to decide this very moment. And I feel like what we fall into is like the pressure of time, right? The pressure of
Yeah.
I need to make a decision right now. I need to respond. I need to react. And so so I've learned to take a moment, to take a breather, process the emotions, and then from there, obviously pray. And get perspective, get insight, and see, okay, why is the person responding like this? Why are they coming to me like this? And then understand that if somebody loved you enough to approach you,
Yeah.
then it's a conversation worth having. And whether it's, whether you're laughing the entire time, whether you're crying the entire time, whatever the case may be, like you're still having that conversation, right? And so starting on a plateau where you're just like, okay, we both want reconciliation, or we both want something good to come out of this, or we both want the best outcome, whether that be whatever. Obviously, if you're married, this hopefully not the outcome, but if you're dating, like, the outcome can be separation. And so
Yeah.
we need to have that conversation. Will it be tough? Yeah. But is it going to be worthwhile? Yeah. Because if not, resentment builds up.
Yeah.
Or again, your identity starts being attacked,
Yeah.
or whatever the case may be. So that would be my advice from somebody that
Yeah. I just to add really quick, so somebody who's married, like I've always said this and I'll reiterate, you guys are on the same team.
Yeah.
When you win, he wins. When he wins, you win. Like that's always been my motto. If you understand sports, if the people on the team are not on like the same wavelength, like that team is not going to win.
Yeah.
It just makes it that much more difficult. Now, if you're dating and you can't take that constructive criticism, then and you're not willing to see that person as your teammate, then you really have to assess the situation and ask yourself, if I can't see this person as a teammate, then, or I can't trust them as a teammate, then what am I doing in this?
Yeah.
What am I doing? Because if you're not applying or taking steps to see them, ask yourself, why am I not seeing them? Why do I feel threatened? And whatever that answer is, work towards it. Work towards it not being a threat, and work towards it being a companionship.
Yeah.
And if you can't, and you're not married, then you're still in time to find yourself the real teammate.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because then that's how you end up with those married couples that never speak to each other, and
That's my
the
number
husband
one fear.
goes and cuts the grass all the time, stuck in his garage, and
Yeah.
the wife's inside. It's like you guys are just occupying space. You're not.
Yeah.
You're not
Roommates.
there for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not really, because me and my roommate get in more fights. Than we were just fighting today. I love you, girl. Yeah, so that's really good, awesome advice, and I want to follow that vein a little bit more, but we already.
Yeah.
Okay, so last but not least, we're just gonna leave you guys with something uplifting, and that is that God meets you where you're at, this is something Jose said. God meets you where you're at, but He doesn't leave you where you're at, and I think that's such the love of the Father right there, right? Like as I'm sure with kids, right? If you find them all dirty and stuff, you're not just gonna be like, oh, I'm sorry. You're gonna meet them there. You're gonna clean them up. And then you're going to be like, do whatever needs to be done for them to either not end up there or just return to what they were doing, right? And so just when you come to salvation, when you come to Christ and you start feeling the conviction, or you start feeling like, man, I really need to work out that sin, and you don't know how to navigate through that, I think it would be good for you to understand that God doesn't want you to get cleaned up so that he can love you. He wants you to get cleaned up because he loves you.
Yeah.
Right? And seeing it from those two different perspectives really can make the game-changing difference, where it's just like it determines your approach, right? Because all of a sudden you're being led into freedom. You're not being pushed into freedom. And so if you're in a church that's pushing you and that's making you do like, hey, you better get it right, or else like blah, blah. Okay, first of all, like, get out of there. Right? But if you're in a church that's helping you out and they're like, hey, like, we just love you so much that we don't want to continue seeing you in this bondage, that you're in the house of the Lord, like, for sure. So don't take that for granted, because people do move on. The Lord is gracious. People need help.
Yeah.
But yeah, so is there anything else that you guys would want to add to that?
Well, just in response to, what you were saying about, if you're, like, we're all in different places, we're all in different seasons, we're all in different, and what we've been talking about is we all need different things that are going to help us, motivate us to get us to a better place. And so even in, like, the kind of church that you're in, I know people who go to churches that I would consider, for me, beginner churches.
Yeah.
There's certain churches that I call, but that's where they need to be.
Yeah.
To experience growth. And then you, like you said, you're gonna have people who are in churches where they're getting in your face and they're rigid and they have to be on time and they're very militant. But I remember it was Kim Clement, the prophet Kim Clement, who said he was in a church like, and you guys know, first of all, he's a prophet, and Kim Clement, he's creative, he's all over the place, he does not stick to a schedule. Yeah. You guys heard his music, his prophecies, they go for hours. But the Lord had him there in that church for as many years as he was.
That's so good.
Teach him
I
that
didn't know that.
regimented style. Yeah, and so he hated it, but the Lord told him, no, you stay. And so, definitely pray about what church you're going to. And if the Lord's having you there, I feel like even if you don't like it, there's probably a reason. There's something in your spirit the Lord is, you really have to work that out in your spirit. It could also just mean the Lord's telling you to leave. But at the end of the day, we're all in different places. And I do love that Jose pointed that out of he'll meet you where you're at. Absolutely. And I feel like too many greasy grace churches stop there. And
Come
he'll
as
leave
you
you
are.
there.
Yeah.
Come as you are and stay as you are.
Yeah.
No. The Lord is going to meet you where you're at, but he's going to uplift you to a higher place from that place.
Yeah, and what kind of friendship would you want to be a part of that wouldn't motivate you to do better, Duscos?
No, I mean, that's the depiction of the father, right? Like, again, bringing it back to fatherhood, it's like, if I see my daughters on a bike and, the first time they try, they fall down and, they don't know how to ride the bike, I'm not just going to meet them and just be like, well, I guess it's not destined for you to ride a bike, and that's
really
it. What does a father do? They go out there like, okay, here, let me push you a few times, let me follow you a few times. Oh, you fell down, let me get you back up. Oh, you fell down, let me get you back up. And you are going to fall down several times. So.
That's so good.
But a good father goes out there for as long as it needs to until that kid can learn how to ride the bike. And it's the same thing here where, God will meet you where you're at, and, you're going to have your struggles. You're going to have your days where you fall down, but, he's the ultimate father. Like, he's going to be there for you as long as you keep seeking him to try to help you get, to your ultimate goal.
That's so good. I feel like we're all just like about to go cry right now. Okay. Thank you for tuning in to In the Vine podcast. We are just grateful for your time, for your presence. And shout out to Yessie. We miss you. Can't wait to have you back. We miss your silliness, your wisdom, and your little dance moves, girl. Okay, we got it sexy.
And
okay. And her what?
And just her personality.
Yeah, and you, of course.
Just her funness.
Yeah.
I
bet Mike,
bring
you were
back
cool.
Andre. Bring back Andre.
You're cool, Mike. You're cool. Thanks for being here, Mike. We appreciate it. We know that it's totally out of your comfort zones, but you did great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow.
I'll send you my tab later.
Give it to Janice. All right, guys. Until next week. Oh, and don't forget, when is this being aired? We are a little bit less than a month. No, over a month. Like a month and 1 day away from the event. So make sure you buy your tickets in the Vine Mixer.
Yes.
Tell your friends, tell your family members, tell your church that it's time. And don't forget, pray for your single friends because it's hard out here.
Bye.